Hey everybody, today we're just going to make a set of simple edge clamps for my Frontier OS18 sawmill. So you can see that this side, so the saw blade cuts that way. So what happens is the saw sort of picks this up and rotates it, that way just a little bit. The clamps also sort of pull it up a bit. So you get this side, the side against the stops is quite a bit thicker than this side. So I have to fabricate something to hold that down. Okay, so this is what I ended up coming up with. It clamps on to the existing bars that the current clamps are on. The only reason I did that was just for convenience. Like I say, this was just a proof of concept. Okay, so it clamps onto there, and then when it stands up nice and straight, this catches onto the edge. I've got this distance measured out, and because the clamping point and the bar are in line, not apart like 18 inches like the current clamps are, it will hold that board down onto the bed nice and tight. I put the threads in a lathe and I made a little point so that it'll kind of bite into the boards a little bit better. So all I'm going to do is push this forward like that. Like I say, I've got to get slightly better bolts than this. For now, for testing, it'll be fine. Let's give them a little snug. And then I just have to turn this in until it's nice and tight, like so. That feels pretty good. Now that should lock it. It should not be able to come up. So what I'll do is, yeah, that's nice. I don't want to mark it too much, but then again, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? It's rough. Yeah, that's nice and tight. So we'll give that a shot. I'll clamp it front and back like I normally would, and we'll just see if this works. Well, the prototype seems to have done the job. There's a couple of things that I would like to change, maybe improve. Plus, I need two of these. I'm going to alternate them with the factory clamps. Plus, this one is sitting on the bar with the factory clamp, which actually takes up a couple of inches of place. So it has to have its own. Bar. Here are the individual parts of the new clamping system. Again, this is only for the bottom edge, just to keep it from rocking up and down as the saw kind of pulls it. All right, so I've got a new bar to put in between the other clamps. So I'll have one of the original factory clamps on one of these, on one of the crosser things. And then on the next one, I'll have one of these, and then I'll have the factory one, and then I'll have another one of these. So it'll catch any 6-foot board, 10-foot board, 12-foot board, it doesn't matter. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually kept the new clamp sort of free of the clamp. Like I didn't weld this on, put this on, then weld that on. I want to use this bar for multiple reasons. I want to make a few jigs to cut shingles and maybe some siding and all this kind of thing. So this will be kind of like a utility bar that I can change the use for as I set the thing up. Okay, so all you have to do is put this thing on like that. And then this goes through. I've got washers for the inside and the outside so that it doesn't dig into the powder coating that's on the cross members. All right, okay, so there is one complete unit. And now here is one complete unit installed on one of the cross members that I brought in from outside. Okay, so let's go over that. It'll make perfect sense once you see everything in place. So the bar clamps into the same holes that the factory clamps clamp into. It's on this far end down here, it's a single hole, and this is a slider so that you can, well, kind of square things up. But in this case, you want to make sure that this bar is parallel with the work so that, you know, it's not way up or way down when it comes out here. Now this here is the star of the show. So it will clamp on to the bar. You'll have to use a wrench. Everything on this entire sawmill seems to be this same 9/16 wrench for the clamps and all the, you know, kind of the workings. I find that if I just keep this wrench with me, they're all the same, and I'm used to doing that with my South Bend lathe, so it's not a big deal. I just put this in my pocket and make all the adjustments. Once you get used to it, you don't even think about it. Okay, so down here on the business end, this I made this setup here to pierce into the side of the planks when they're sitting down on these cross members. All I did is I turned that on the lathe out of a piece of hot rolled steel, and then I welded it to a 3/8 nut. And, you know, it's not pretty, but it doesn't need to be. Painted it red just to make sure it doesn't rust or rust right away. I put red Loctite on there to lock it on to the threaded portion. And then at this end over here, I just put 2 nuts on there, jammed them back to back. And I'm going to show you the logic to all this in just 1 second. In my opinion, this part right here is the biggest upgrade from that one that I had set up just a little while ago. So what I was finding with the old one is that my point where it dug into the actual lumber was actually this line down here, okay, which was a little bit too low. Especially if you got a little bit of bark there, or if it's not a really nice clean edge, it'll still kind of pull up a little bit and kind of just break that, particularly if it's bark. So I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. Let's move it up as far as I can. So this line at the top is 9/100,000ths of an inch over the top of the bed. So my plan was to cut down to 1 inch with this, all right? So at 9/100,000ths, that gives me 1,000th of an inch of play. You know, when the band's coming over, in case like these nuts are in a funny position, or if it's not, I don't know, whatever reason, I just want a little bit of a room. So I left 100,000ths of an inch, which is, you know, like a 1/16 of an inch or bigger than that, I guess. And that also got the center point up as high as I possibly could on the wood. And these little edges stay down just a little bit. Actually, they're probably about 3/4 of an inch off the face. The bigger deal is back here, these nuts. So if I would have put a wing nut on here, which I did on the previous one, then if that wing nut was standing up, it would probably hit the blade, and blades are expensive and there's no reason for that. So I decided to go with 2 clinched nuts for right now. I might change my mind later. And that was able to, again, to bring up the center of this whole unit so as high as possible to get the best possible grip. I'm pretty happy with the design. I'm pretty sure it's going to work out. You know, things never go as planned, I suppose, but really, it's pretty simple. I ran a couple of tests and, you know, improved, and I can't see why this won't be absolutely beautiful. All right, so let me show you what I got. So starting out from the saw, I've got one of the factory ones, and then I've got one of mine, then a factory one, and one of mine, and at the end here is a factory one. I've got an extra length in here so I can cut 12-foot logs. I've got a kind of an old semi-punky ash log. I might be able to get something out of the middle of it. I'm going to, I'll use that as my sample just to see how it goes. Very close. Very close. So watch this. I put a little bit of pressure on the top here. See? Comes up. Now the log's pretty heavy right now, and this problem isn't bad until you get down and it's a little bit lighter, and then it just has the machine just has the power to push that right over. So that's not very solid, right? Just tighten these up. And I should just have to snug this in. Like so. I don't need to push it in hard, just enough to lock it. That should stay seated on there because there's not enough room in here for it to flex, you know, like these great big long things. So hopefully I'll put the second one on in the back in just a second. Clamp her all down, and let's rip it down into boards and see if anything moves. Okay, that's not moving anywhere. That's nice and tight on there. Perfect. Here's my piece locked onto the bed. Take this log hook and look at that. That thing doesn't even move a millimeter. That's perfect. That should be perfect. Here's the end after, I don't know, slabbing off 4 or 5 pieces. So that's a small 2.5, and it's a small 2.5. So it's square. It's nice. It's, you know, I didn't get this at all before. It was always lifting up, and then this side would be smaller than this side, and it would be a real nightmare. But I think I finally got it. So what we're going to do right now is the 1-inch test. I'm going to cut down to 1 inch off the bottom, make sure that it clears, and hope for the best. Look at that. That's so much better. I'm sure not one of the bottom pieces I cut previously was anywhere near that true. So this definitely solves my problem. I'm pretty happy about that. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, please subscribe. I really appreciate it when people tune in and watch my videos.